Everybody, thank you so much for having me. For people here in person and people who are at home, we are learning from this book, which is it's an introductory article from the Bal Ha Sulam, which is called Matan Torah, and it's the first introductory article because the Bal Ha Sulam wrote a lot of articles, did a lot of writing to prepare a person for learning Kabbalah, to make a lot of corrections about misnomers that people had about Kabbalah, and to just prep people for what the actual avoda, what the actual work and the purpose of studying Kabbalah, and generally speaking Torah and mitzvos, what that is and what we're trying to accomplish. So anybody who wants this book, please just send a note to me in online, and I will see that you get a book. It's very reasonably priced, and we can ship it to you. And anybody who's here personally, in person, if you want the book, just let me know and I'll bring you a copy I'll bring you a copy the next time we come. Okay, so I'm gonna start today's class just by saying over what we spoke about, the last excerpt that we did last time, that we ended on, so we could just review that, and I think that's a good place to pick up. Okay, spiritual work in practice. Begin by choosing a group of at least 3 or 4 friends. Think every day about the good aspects of the friends. Speak to the friends in a way one would speak with very important people. Do things for the benefit and happiness of the friends. This is practical spiritual work on the level of thought, speech, and action that can be done every day. The Bal Ha Sulam suggests that the group meet once a week, each time in a different member's home, to discuss the importance of the group, the spiritual work of loving others, the practical ways to develop love and cooperation between friends. It is important to choose for the group. It is important for the group to choose people who are serious about doing this, and to begin with people with whom we feel a heart connection. We begin to develop from here. Okay, so what I think is important to say here, I'll read this one once because we did it last class, we read it twice already. So what I think is important to point out here is that this is exactly what we're doing anyway. You don't have to be Jewish, you don't have to be religious. This is what everybody in the world is trying to do. So what the Bal Ha Sulam is trying to do is trying to explain the mechanics of how we develop spiritually. So this should not be something that this is exactly what everybody does. Everybody tries to get together with people that they love and people they care about and be nice to them, right? What's important is to understand where the tip of the sword is to understand why we're doing this. And so if you're doing it because it feels good and you just want to have a good life, okay, that's beautiful, it's very nice. You're trying to be nice and get together with your friends from the bowling club or getting together with the people from your synagogue. These are all very nice things, but here the Bal Ha Sulam is trying to show how all these things that became ritualized and that we do in society, how to start to think about them in a practical manner so that we can start to take the reins of our own spiritual development, okay? So what the Bal Ha Sulam said is that we try to get together with a group of people who have already decided that they need more spirituality in their life. They need to find Hashem, if that's the way you want to say it. They need to transcend the evil that they sense within them, right? Or just feel that they want to fix the world, and they feel that in the Torah there is a way to do that, okay? Let me move on. Everybody, as always, please, if you have a comment or a question, please just raise your hand, call out. It's all good. We want a conversation here. Okay.
I got a question.
Yes, please.
So earlier, I asked a question related to a well-known Kabbalistic concept known as tzimtzum, contraction.
Okay.
And I challenged the speaker, in that case it was Youre, if he were to explain that concept in a children's book for 10 years old, how would he do it? And actually did a pretty good job of explaining that. So if Bal Ha Sulam was talking to a group of little kids, what would he say to them?
Amazing. So somebody's asking a question about the Bal Ha Sulam, how he would describe Tzimtzum, which is a contraction, which is the way that God created the world. So first, it takes a certain amount of time to explain all the mechanics of how the world was created through all of these reductions in the light, these screens that were put in place so that we no longer feel down here that we readily can know for certain that God exists. We sense ourselves instead of God, and that was done on purpose by God to give us a way to grow and to have independence, okay? But here's the most important thing. What happens, I think, in Kabbalah is that people start to talk about the spheros, but they didn't spend enough time explaining the purpose of creation. And so that is, once we start from that very fundamental place, it's called first principles, when you first start out and you just know what is the most fundamental thing that we can know, okay? And so the Bal Ha Sulam says, and the Ari HaKodesh says, the Ari HaKodesh came before the Bal Ha Sulam, that the reason why this world exists is because Hashem, God, wanted someone, an entity, to give over goodness to, okay? And that should immediately bring up the second question is, well, things don't look very good. If that's why God created the world, to make everything so perfect and beautiful and happy for everybody, then what happened? And so that's why the Kabbalists come and explain that the reason for that is called bread of shame. It's one of the earliest things that we learn about in Kabbalah. One of the first concepts is called bread of shame, that God did create the world perfectly, not physically, but in a spiritual realm, and gave over all the goodness to the created beings, okay? The problem was that the created beings, us, all of us collectively, although we were like awash in a sea of goodness and joy and ecstasy in this high spiritual place, we didn't do anything to deserve it, and that God wanted to add an additional layer of happiness for us by having us participate in creation, and so that we could have a sense that we earned all the goodness, and that when we have an interaction with God, we'll feel that there is an interaction, we'll feel that there's a give and take. So in order for there to be a give and take, we needed to be removed, so to speak, in our own consciousness from godliness, and that is what Tzimtzum Aleph is. We can go into the mechanics of it, but it will take over the whole entire class. But can you respond to me and say, is there something about that is, because that was not for a child, that answer. So is there something you want to respond to that? Is that something that you understand, or that you have an additional?
It still sounds a little bit advanced, even at my level, which isn't very much. It sounds,
So
yeah.
I understand. So
It
that's
sounds a
why
little abstract to me.
I understand. That's why when you study Kabbalah, you go over these teachings. You go over them many, many times, and our brains, our egoistic brains, are not built in a way to readily understand all of these things, and therefore the process of just learning them and hearing them actually has an effect on your consciousness, and slowly but surely it starts to feel more understandable. When the first time that I've heard these things, it was very intriguing, but I certainly didn't feel like I understood it. So we have to go through it over and over again, and each time, hopefully, what you should want out of the experience of learning is not necessarily to become smarter, but to somehow have your consciousness raised so that you feel that your awareness is changing, and you can feel these things inside of yourself. Okay? Great question, and we'll revisit it over and over again. Okay.
So, just
Yes.
to end with what you're saying, so I don't want to put you on the spot here, but do you feel, as a result of learning all this, that you're talking about it, that your consciousness has changed?
So, okay, so the one of the students here is asking. It's okay. One of the students here is asking me a very, very good question that people ask Kabbalistic teachers all the time. And so the question was, do I feel, after learning Kabbalah for over 10 years, do I feel that somehow my consciousness has been raised? I'll say this, yes, and one of the ways that my consciousness has been raised is that I admit to myself what's wrong with me, and I see in myself selfishness. And so this is going to be something that we're going to discuss in the class, that there's an inverse relationship with how high your consciousness is and how small you feel and how limited you feel and how much you sense that the problems in the world are emanating from within us and not from other people. So this is exactly, we're going to cover these in the bullets, in the excerpts we're doing today. Fantastic questions. Thank you so much. Okay, here we go. The spiritual path of loving others involves fulfilling the material needs of the others. This means giving things like attention and money. Our spiritual work is to be concerned about other people's material well-being. What does it mean to give? It is giving to someone else something that is precious to us. If we are looking to fix other people and give them spirituality, this attests to our materialism. This is not giving, because we are not giving up anything. Looking to give other people spirituality is self-serving, as it contains the ego gratification of feeling superior to others. The true path toward loving others is seeing the good traits. Amazing, okay? This is one of these paragraphs which you can literally just read it every day and understand what the work is, okay? So I'm sitting here and I'm teaching the little bit that I know about Kabbalah, and if I am here because I think that I am doing some huge chesed to everybody here, then I've got the horse before the carriage before the horse. I don't feel that way. I feel that I have a necessity that I want to develop spiritually, and therefore I have an obligation to do what I can, okay? But if I really want to be, what I really care about in life is what my ego cares about. I'm in this world. And so if I care about being treated nicely, if I care that when I walk into shul, people say hello to me, and people say, wow, you look great, or you're, you know, it's so nice to see you, and you're such a good person. If that's what I like, that's what I should be focusing on for other people, okay? And so it's a shift in our understanding of really what the work is, okay? Any questions on that? If you want to be, it says in short in Chassidut, other people's materialism is your spirituality. So if a person wants to develop spiritually, they should be going out and making sure people have enough food and clothes, and that the tuition is paid, and that people are treated with respect and dignity in public. These are all the things that we should be doing when it's talking about loving other people, okay? Next one. We are not to blame others, as we have not come to this world to fix others. We are here to fix ourselves. So again, you want to talk about a spiritual elevation, and people have, you know, all these ideas about what it means to be spiritual. I'm going to wear very, you know, white robes, and that's great. Go for it. I'm going to wear, I don't know what, you know, I'm going to call out. I'm going to be very loud when I'm praying. It's all fantastic. People should do whatever those things, and it's effective, and it's an important thing to do. But if a person wants to undergo a shift, a huge shift in their spiritual development, it's that moment when you realize that everything is, the only place of change is within yourself, and it can be brutally painful. I got into a intellectual argument with somebody yesterday, and I just was consumed with feeling anger and resentment and fury and all these feelings. And then the hours after that, what my practice is to think about that and say, wow, you know, I really, you know, just want to tell this person off. I really want to just do something to them and have them stop being the way they are, so that I could be the way I am. And the truth is that the change that's going to happen to the world to make the world a more peaceful place is when we look at ourselves and say, what could I have done differently? And that's the beginning of the spiritual work, okay? How we affect the change, that's something we have to continue to talk about, okay? It's not as straightforward sometimes as we might think about how to change. Okay, next one. Our soul comes to this world with the specific purpose of attaining spiritual elevation. Therefore, we are here to work on ourselves spiritually day and night. Okay, simple. I don't think I have to say that. I'll read it again, but I think it's self-explanatory. Our souls come to this world with the specific purpose of attaining spiritual elevation. Therefore, we are here to work on ourselves spiritually day and night. Matan Torah, page 91. Sorry, I wasn't announcing which pages. That is from the introductory article of the Bal Ha Sulam called Matan Torah, page 91, if anybody wants to know the source. Okay, moving on. When we make an effort to go in the direction of giving, an impression is made in our consciousness that elevates us in the direction of giving. When we go in the direction of our desires to receive, then an impression is made in our consciousness affecting us in that way. There is also a collective consciousness of humanity that is affected telepathically by every person's inner state. Okay, so the first part of this is very straightforward, that everybody knows that the more you do something, the more you want to do something. So if you get involved in God forbid, let's say smoking cigarettes, the more you smoke, the more you're going to want to smoke. If you get involved in baseball, the more you play baseball, the more you're going to like baseball. And so this is something that is why in Torah we try to surround ourselves with a community of like-minded people. And the Baruch Shalom Ashlag, the son of the Bal Ha Sulam, was huge on this and did a lot of his writing on the work that we do within a group. And we're already doing it because we do it, but it's nice to know why we're doing it, and then you can maybe evaluate yourself better and say, is this the right synagogue for me? Is this the right learning group for me? I'm becoming smarter, but am I becoming a better person? Am I really doing the inner work of Torah and mitzvos? And that's something that I think just knowing that is something that can help us, is that the more you do something, the more you surround yourself with people who want spirituality, who want to be givers, the more you're going to become a giver. Okay, it's just the way the world works. Okay, it's called peer pressure. Yes?
The statement before that was seemingly so simple and self-explanatory. It's very, very powerful one, because really the essence of that, I think, is saying that we came here with a specific purpose, each of us, our own purpose, and so that it really covers every single decision and thing that we do in every gap in our life, feeling worthless or confused or anything, because if we come back to that, we came here with a specific purpose and try to get in touch with what that is, and it just changes everything.
Yes. Amazing. Okay, so one of the students here wanted to go back, made a comment on the last one that no, it's fantastic. So let me just read it again. Our souls come to this world with the specific purpose of attaining spiritual elevation. Therefore, we are here to work on ourselves spiritually day and night. So, this is a perfect explanation of what we say in Torah, from lo lishma to lishma, from not for her sake to her sake, meaning we do our work for the wrong reasons, and that brings us to doing it for the right reasons. That's a paraphrase. It's not really the wrong reasons, but we do things with the wrong motivations. We do it for egoistically, and then we graduate. And so, in Torah and mitzvos, you have people keeping Shabbos, keeping kosher, not telling Lashon Hara, which means speaking bad of others, and all these things they're doing because they want to get a reward in the next world, or they don't want to get punished. That is called lo lishma. That is the wrong motivation. But that is the system of Torah and mitzvos, and that's exactly how we raise our children. So our child says, I don't want to share my toy, and you say, share your toy because then I will give you a cookie. So now they're doing the thing you want them to do, but they're doing it for the wrong reason. They're going to graduate. When they get older, they're going to realize that sharing, everything good? That sharing is its own reward. And being in love with people and having people be in love with you is its own reward. And living within your boundaries so that other people can live in their boundaries is its own reward. And so that's exactly the system of Torah mitzvos. So when a person hears this, if they say to themselves, I wonder why I'm here, and the reason that I'm here is to change myself, then that is a huge elevation. So you say, does learning Kabbalah actually raise your consciousness? If a person moves from a place where they're doing everything in their life because of what they can get out of it, and they somehow start to focus on the fact that being good and being outside of your ego and being in the aspect of giving is a massive reward that will change everything, then that is a huge spiritual elevation. That we should demystify what we mean by spiritual work. If some people think that it means that you have to look religious or you have to be speaking about certain things, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with moving from being egoistic to being selfless, and that is the inner aspect of the Torah. And then the outer aspects become the actual rituals, the actual observances become a vehicle for us to achieve that, and also becomes an ornament on our work. In other words, if one person is a beautiful person, but they go to the racetrack and they go to the beach, or they go anywhere, they go to the mall, and the other person is a beautiful person, but they sit and they learn Torah and mitzvos, then the quality of their spiritual work will take on a more physical manifestation, and they will be more connected to, it's like, I'm trying to think of an example. The example would be different. Let's say you spent your life watching football as opposed to watching football and playing football. So there's an added quality that is so many times more beneficial and wondrous and, changes your life and beautifies your life by playing football instead of just watching it. But there's certainly a commonality that you have two people, one plays it and one only watches it, but that they're both involved in the same world, right? And so it's just a matter of degrees, how much a person is Zohar, we say in Torah, how much a person, God gave us the ability to be observant and to do the physical mitzvot is deeply connected to the inner aspect, and we can go on and we will continue to talk about the quality and benefit of doing the actual physical mitzvot. Okay. Moving on. The last thing I want to say, we'll move on to the next excerpt that I already read, and I just want to read this last sentence here because I was just saying how, we should demystify, what we're doing here, and here we have a very magical statement here, okay? So there is also a collective consciousness of humanity that is affected telepathically by every person's inner state, okay? That's amazing. There is also a collective consciousness of humanity that is affected telepathically by every person's inner state. Okay? This is something that if you said it 150 years ago, you would sound like you are anti-science, but if you don't say it today, you sound like you're anti-science. So even scientists today are talking about a neural net, collective consciousness, how that on the quantum level, how if two entities can be separated by time and space, but if they have the same objective or the same intention, that they're somehow connected. So these are all things that are now become, it's cutting edge, but still these are things that are discussed in science. How that what I think internally has an effect on the outside world. And the more you learn Kabbalah, the more you see that that is the true reality, is that we are all collectively creating our reality. In other words, if there's, God forbid, a war going on halfway around the world, or if there's somebody who's, stealing somewhere, that this is all created by our collective ego and our willingness to be self-serving and not to be altruistic. And so, if everybody changes themselves, the more everybody changes themselves, the more the collective picture in reality will be nice and beautiful and perfected, and all the suffering will go away. That kind of stuff. Okay. Next excerpt. The true purpose of our life is to connect with God. Okay, self-explanatory. The true purpose of life is to connect with God. Now we have to do a lot of work and try to understand God's nature. Okay, so we said that we want to connect to God, but a lot of people, there's a famous Hasidic story where some atheist was speaking to the Berditchever Rebbe, I believe, and he was telling him all about how the world's a terrible place, and any God who created the world must have evil intentions, God forbid. That's what this atheist was saying. And the Berditchever Rebbe, I believe that's who it was, said, the God you don't believe in, I also don't believe in. And so Orthodox Jewish people, religious Jewish people spend most of their time learning about God. And so we have to learn what the true nature of God is, that God is a giver, and that even though we see negative things in life, that somehow this is all for the good, and it's very hard to feel that. And so we have to learn a lot about why God made the world the way he did, and how God is acting from an altruistic nature. Okay, moving on. The spiritual work of loving other people is not focused on people's external aspect, but rather on the divine aspect, the aspect of God within each person. Okay? I'm going to read it again. The spiritual work of loving other people is not focused on people's external aspect, but rather on the divine aspect, the aspect of God within each person. Okay. With most of these excerpts, most of these things that are being said in these articles, it can seem very simple, but the more you think about it, it can become very complicated. Okay. So what we're saying here is that our desire to be nice to people should be based on the fact that everybody has within them a very beautiful quality. But we just said that how I'm nice to people is by being nice to them in their egoistic nature. So there's a paradox here. I have somebody who I was having a long conversation with, and as we're fighting, he's telling me that he loves me. And I said to him, I'm not really interested in the fact that you love my inner aspect, my soul. We're having a disagreement now, and we're fighting, and we're arguing, and we're upset with each other, and I'd much rather you focus on the fact that you're upset with me. So this is one of the illusions that people do, which is a corruption. It's a confusion. So if somebody comes over to you and they are rude to you, you should address the fact that they're being rude to you. You should not say, I turn the other cheek. I'm happy with you even though you're treating me poorly. This is not the work. This is not what we're saying. That's why we have an outer aspect. We have halacha. If you have a yard and somebody else has a yard next to you and they start spilling, chemicals into your yard, right? Where the Torah is not telling you now you should go and love this person and not take care of yourself, right? So if somebody is hurting you, that's why the Bal Ha Sulam said you should get together with 10 people who you have a commonality with, people who you agree with, people who you feel that why do we have somebody goes to this synagogue and somebody else goes to that synagogue? Because you choose a synagogue where you feel that a majority of the people are similar to you enough that you feel a brotherhood with them. So if somebody's treating you poorly, that is something, there are halachot about what you're allowed to do. You're not allowed to just kill somebody because they are messing up your yard. Obviously, there's rules. And that's why the Torah has many aspects. So I hope that's clear. It's a big one because it's a mistake that I think, spiritual seekers often make, where they think, I now have to be nice to anybody who's being not nice to me. And it's really not the road forward. You can choose for spiritual reasons to not respond to somebody. So if somebody embarrasses you, you could decide that you'd rather work on your inner spiritual nature than to be focused on the person. But then you'll be like, I don't want to yell at this person, and I don't care that they caused me $7 worth of damage. I don't care. But that's not the same thing as being resentful and feeling like you're going to be nice to somebody because God told you have to be nice to everybody. So these are called, I'm trying to remember the right word. When we have these inner clarifications, this is the work of Kabbalah. So when we say to ourselves, I'm doing this, I have a new desire within myself to not respond to this person. That would be a move forward in spirituality. And so these are, we pray for this in Shemona Esrei. We ask for these type of abilities to be able to evaluate ourselves inside, right? And so if you choose not to respond to somebody who's being not nice to you out of joy and happiness that you're able to elevate yourself above that without arrogance, then that's a good thing. If you're doing it because you think that you're being forced into a situation, it's probably you need to continue to clarify. Okay, next excerpt. The Rebbe wrote, and I believe we're talking about Rabbi Baruch Shalom Ashlag, who is the son of the Bal Ha Sulam here. That's the Rebbe that they're quoting. Everyone works and suffers in this world. We are, however, presented with two paths. We can work and suffer for a hut that any wind can break apart, or we can work to build an eternal building that endures forever. Let me read that again with a little bit more poise. The Rebbe wrote, everyone works and suffers in this world. We are, however, presented with two paths. We can work and suffer for a hut that can blow away in any wind, or we can build an eternal building that endures forever. This, I think, is very important to hear because it's very easy to think that if you're trying to be good, you're suffering, and if you're not trying to be good, you're having a great time, and it's not always true. So everybody suffers, everybody's human, everybody is trying, and so here the advice would be that if you work on yourself, you're working on an eternal, something that you will have for eternity, and if you're working, for a race car or for a nice house, we all know what happens. You get older and then you can't enjoy it, and then it goes on to your kids. Hopefully you have a good relationship with your kids, but that's what happens to your big fancy house. And if we work on ourselves, we get something that's much more everlasting because our soul is eternal. And as we develop our souls, that work it survives our physical death, okay? Any thought that is disconnected from the reality of God is not a good thought. Okay, I'm just going to read that one more time and then I'm going to keep moving. Any thought that is disconnected from the reality of God is not a good thought. Okay, next one. The more effort we make to be in divine service and give to others, the more we become aware of our selfishness and pray for God's help. The more effort we make to be in divine service and to give to others, the more we become aware of our selfishness and pray for God's help. Okay, Matan Torah, page 119. This, again, if I had to pick out an excerpt, a line that would encompass the majority of the work in Kabbalah, this would be it. This here we just said that the more we work and the more we try to be nice to other people, the more we realize how selfish we are and that we need to pray to God to help us. So you asked about doing the work of Kabbalah and spiritual elevation, and if a person who studies Kabbalah can actually feel this. So here is, let me just say, I had an argument with somebody yesterday, and I felt very bad that I was angry and that I was not treating them with respect, and it was a tremendous blow to my ego. Egoistically, I said, I thought I was better than this, I got angry, right? But that is inside of my ego. But inside of my soul, I was saying to myself, wow, this is, God created me, and this is who I am. I have this amount of, I have a limit, I could be nice to most people, but then when I meet that one person who is really, for whatever reason, I just can't take them, maybe they...
Stop talking to Shuki.
What?
You should stop.
Exactly, yeah. So, here is the paradox, okay? We have a body, the ego, and we have a soul. These are, you know, we have to work in sometimes two different directions here, right? So, when I felt bad that I was not nice to this person, that was an egoistic feeling. I'm an egoistic person. If anything, my ego is getting bigger as I study Kabbalah. So, that most people would leave it there. They think I'm being a good person because I feel bad that I was not nice. That's not the work of Kabbalah. That is an important thing, to feel bad and don't do it again. But the spiritual work is, the more we try to give, I said I'm working so hard for studying this stuff so I could become a giver, and here I am not being a giver. That is a very, very high madrega, a high spiritual level. It's not pleasant, but it's a very high level to say to yourself, here is where I am. Now what should I do about this? I could pretend that I could fix it myself, or I could try to fix it myself over and over and over again, which is good. We have to do that. Try next time to see the person. Maybe don't speak to them so much. Next time, just come up with all the ways that I could be a better person in my ego. But in the transcendent soul, what I would do is I'd say, God, look at this. This is where I have become an evil person. This is where I add negativity and suffering to the world. And in this place, I need you to step in and to change me. Okay, that is in a nutshell, that is the Kabbalistic world. It's called raising man. When you see the part of you that is not fixable, and you've tried to fix it, and then you have such a distaste for it, you have such a discomfort with it, you have such a clarity that is the evil that's in the world. It's not somewhere else. Most of us spend most of our time talking about all the bad people who are from the other political party from us, and all the people who are a different religion than us. None of that is the work. None of that is the spiritual work. The spiritual work is when you say, this is inside of me, and I wish it wasn't there, I wish I was better than that. That is when you raise man in a group of 10, you pray. That's a real prayer in Kabbalah. You say, please God, I've done the work, I've identified where the evil is, and now it's your job to step in and to fix that.
I disagree only in the sense that I'm sure Kabbalah says it as well, but Rashi says that also, and I imagine he was a Kabbalist too, when he says, I forgot the parasha that he talks about, where he says, Mun Shabbat, Al-Tano Fabra, the fault that's in you, don't blame it on someone, don't say, oh, you're the one who has that. You have it. That's exactly what you're saying, I think. You know
So where's the disagreement?
There is no disagreement. I'm just saying that this is not necessarily a Kabbalistic concept. This is something that Rashi says.
Okay. So,
I don't know if
beautiful.
I
So
can
somebody
go
here,
Kabbalah.
some student just said that we don't have to go to another very astute comment, that why should we have to go to Kabbalah if it is in the revealed Torah? And the student here quoted a Rashi that says the very thing, don't do to somebody else what you don't want done to yourself, correct?
Not really. It's
Say it
saying
again.
that you have that, in other words,
Oh, I understand. That
I
whatever's-
have that problem.
I understand.
I have that shortcoming. I'm saying, although I'm saying you're the one who has the shortcoming, it's true, like I have the one but I'm projecting it.
Beautiful.
onto you.
So
Projecting.
the student is bringing down a Rashi, and in the Rashi he says, and I don't know the Rashi, but he says that when you see something evil in somebody else, it's really something that's inside of you.
Correct. And you're
Beautiful.
projecting it onto
Okay,
somebody.
so that is a very, very important statement. And now the follow-up question should be, how do I fix that? And so that part of the answer is Torah and mitzvot. So if a person is learning Gemara and they are doing all the mitzvot, the Bal Ha Sulam says that in the revealed way, they're studying Gemara, they're not studying Kabbalah, they're studying Gemara. And they understand that that is something that's inside of them. And they want to fix it. And they're praying for that, and they're doing everything they can to fix it, then they're doing the inner aspect of the Torah, and that's good. But if a person is missing that somehow, and a person needs more clarification, and I would argue that if a person wants to supercharge their avoda, their work that they're doing, then understanding the mechanics is very helpful. So here we just said what the mechanics are. A person first realizes that they are in the world to fix themselves. Then they realize that the evil that they notice inside of themselves is actually a piece of all the evil that they're witnessing out in the whole world, that it's all the evil is just every single person's collective internal evil being projected out to the world. So every little thing, some person could be the worst thing they do is they don't say hello to somebody. The other person is stealing. The other person is cheating on their taxes, right? We're not judging people for the amount of evil that's inside of them, but what do we do once we recognize that there's evil inside of us? And so the more we learn, the more it'll disgust us that we have that inside of us. And when a person feels truly disgusted, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, somebody asked him when he's going to change finally, and he said he's going to change when you just feel completely overwhelmed with the fact that you don't want to be like that anymore. And then you'll change, and we know that. You just can't stand it. The person smokes for 30 years, and then one day they wake up and they just stop. They got so disgusted with it, and they just stop, okay? So this is the kind of thing we're talking about, that a person has to get to the point where they are focused on the fact that everything bad that's happening in the world is coming from inside of people, and the only place where they're going to affect the change is by changing what's inside of them, but they have no ability to do it, and then they have to reach out to God to draw down the light that reforms. That's what it's called in Kabbalah, that's the mechanics of what's happening. When you feel that there's something bad inside of you and you want it out, you want it to change, you want to transcend that, you want to fix that, if you don't reach out to God, then according to Kabbalah, you're not going to really fix the problem.
I would agree with what you said. I would just add that in addition to feeling disgusted about it and not bringing about change, it would also just be recognizing that one has that issue. So on a personal level, many years ago, somebody said something to me about whatever the issue was, and I was in denial. I said, "Oh, you're great. I don't do that, or I'm not that way." And then, like, not more than 30 seconds later, they said something else, or I don't know what the process was, and I go, "Eureka! I was in denial. It was amazing." So, just recognizing that, really, I found that helpful.
Amazing.
So recognizing that one has that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So one of our students here is saying something that's very obvious to all of us, is that we have to be ready to admit even that we have a shortcoming, okay? And so that is why study of Kabbalah can be so important. If we realize and we talk about it and we learn and we even try to express it to each other, that the benefit of changing is so gratifying and it's everything we want is in that change. In other words, we all want to be happy, we all want to be connected to each other, we all want all these good things, and the more we understand that the place to receive all of that goodness is when we fix ourselves, is when we fix these qualities, then a person is going to be much more willing to do it. The problem is that people don't see the benefit of changing. They see the benefit of staying the way they are. I'm going to be selfish, I'm going to work very hard for myself, I'm going to go to law school, and I'm going to have a big house. I see that, and I say, that's what I'm going to do. But if a person said to you, I'm going to be a giver, and I'm going to be nice to other people, where is that benefit for me? And so the more we learn Kabbalah, the more a person is going to be able to identify what the benefit is. And I'll tell you what the benefit is, because we've all experienced it to some degree or another. The day when you walk out and you feel like you love everybody, and everybody loves you, and you just feel happy, and maybe you had a tuna fish sandwich, or maybe you had sushi, or maybe you had the most expensive steak in the world, that's not important. What's important is that whatever happened on that day, you felt good about it. You felt connected, you felt love, you felt value, fulfilled. Exactly, fulfilled is with the light. We want to feel fulfilled. That's what we're talking about. The light that we're talking about is that sense of eternity, bonding, transcendence. That's the payoff. And the more we can convince each other that and express that, the more we're going to have a desire to say, oh, wait a minute, this guy just told me that I'm sometimes rude. Maybe I should work on that. Instead of saying, that guy's not, I'm not rude, this guy's wrong, right? Like you're saying, it's hard to even, the ego doesn't let us rest. The ego doesn't let us even admit that we have something that's wrong. What's so bad about admitting something that you're wrong, right? That you did something, that you have a quality. In Kabbalah, we value when we see something wrong in ourselves. We're excited by that. We're happy. Oh, wow, I see a place where I am limited. And I don't want to be limited. I want to come out of Egypt. I want to be bigger than I am. And so when we see that, so yesterday I had a fight with somebody. My ego is very wounded by it, but my soul is saying, wow, this is an opportunity to be more honest about who I am, more honest that I'm not only filled with love, that I have anger, and that I have resentment, and I have fear, and all these things, and then to understand that there is a method by which we can work on that, and that's Torah and mitzvos. And so that's why I think it's very beautiful to explain that's what the Torah is for. And so if we're avoiding it, if a person's avoiding that aspect of the Torah, they're really missing the boat. So if somebody wants to know, should I be learning Kabbalah, Chassidut, Kabbalah, or just even going to a different teacher, if you don't realize that that's what we're trying to accomplish in Torah and mitzvos, then I would respectfully say that you're missing the boat. Okay, next. Should we go on? We have time?
Yep.
Okay, amazing. Thank you very much. You're really, you're on the ball today.
I think you've said it also, but I wanted to say it, so I think you stole my thunder.
Sit here and give the class. I'm not kidding. You can read, if anybody wants to sit up here and read, this is supposed to be a group thing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So actually, that experience that I shared with you about, oh wow, I was in denial. Now I could have gone two ways with that. One is, Marcus, you're a jerk. You're a guy who's into denial. Okay, you corrected it. You realized, but you do that. But I didn't do that. I just said, oh, that's great. That I learned that about myself. That here I was in denial, and now I'm not.
Amazing. So what the student is saying that, he was in denial about not being able to admit his fault of his, which is the most human thing in the world. We all have that. And then at some point he was able to look at it. So my suggestion would be, and this is not me, this is the Bal Ha Sulam, this is the people who, certainly it's true in Chassidut, is that that's what we should be teaching in school. That skill is what we should be teaching our students in school. And that if we're not teaching our students who are Torah and mitzvos, who are in a school, who are learning Torah and mitzvos, if we're not teaching them that recognizing that something's wrong and that you have a quality that is not corrected yet, that's not perfected, that's negative, it's a wonderful thing. It's a good thing, and it's not something to be embarrassed about. We should share that, and we should work on it in a loving group. That's what Kabbalah is. To sit in a loving group where people have your back, where they respect you and they love you, and for you to be able to say, I've recognized in myself something better. And we don't talk about it like in a self-help group in like if you go to like 12 steps. You don't stand up and testify, today I did this thing bad and today I did that bad. No, we don't do that. We eat, we sing, and we learn. And in the books, we let the rabbis, the people who are corrected, who have 5 souls, all corrected, let them put the sentences together and let them come up with the strategy for how we do this. It's very easy for us to say that, that's what happens in the secular world and in a lot of places. People come up with their own strategies for these things. But in Torah, we are looking to people who are in attainment. Attainment of what? Attainment of the 5 souls. And so the people who wrote the Bal Ha Sulam fixed all 5 souls. The Ari HaKodesh fixed all 5 souls. Rav Nachman, who's in Maron, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. These are our sages, and the reason they're our sages is because they have elevated consciousness where they've done all these corrections on all of their internal feelings. They've done all this work, and now they, from on high, are trying to give us the right sentence structure and the right ideas in the right order to help us. And that's the difference between Rav Nachman talks about philosophy versus attainment. That's why a lot of people in Torah and mitzvos are hesitant to get involved in philosophy, because philosophy is somebody's great ideas from where they are. And so if a person has no corrected souls, or they have 2 corrected souls, that's fantastic, but that's I want to learn from a master mountain climber. I don't want to learn from somebody who's been in it 6 weeks. And so when we have somebody who's been up the mountain, meaning that they've corrected all 5 souls, those people are uniquely suited to help us get to where they are. And that's one of the secrets of the Torah, is that that's what's going on. Okay. The prayer being answered means receiving from God a new nature that is able to completely transcend the ego and the desire to receive. Okay? The prayer being answered means receiving from God a new nature that is able to completely transcend the ego and the desire to receive. Okay? Matan Torah, page 119. Does anybody here want to say what they think that means? The prayer being answered means receiving from God a new nature that is able to completely transcend the ego and the desire to receive. We're praying for a car. We're praying for, to get married. We're praying for all these things. But at the root of those things are the things that are holding the shefa, the blessings up. And the thing that's holding it up is our evil inclination, is our ego, is our separation from, right? So we're doing all these things. There's a amazing retreat. Shlomo Gatzi is coming up with is having a retreat that's coming up soon, and it's from what I've heard so far from one of the teachers, it's how to build a bridge between what you want and the place where it's coming from. Okay, and so and it's based on the Ariya code. It's based on Kabbalah. So here I'll tell you in the lashon of in the language of the Bal Ha Sulam, is that the thing that is stopping the thing that you want from coming down is the resistance that your ego is putting up by wanting it selfishly and wanting it for the wrong reason. So the Bal Ha Sulam here is telling you, if you want to build a bridge, the way to build a bridge is that if you want the fundamental reason why you're not getting what you want in life to be, you want to understand what the fundamental reason is and fix something on the most fundamental reason, then that's what you should be praying for, is that God say, I know I want to get married, but there must be a reason why it's being held up, and it must be something that's good for me that it's held up, and therefore, what is that thing? What is that selfish quality that I have that if I was able to fix that, I would be ready for this goodness to come my way? And that is a much better prayer than just saying, like a child, I want the cookie, but are you going to clean your room? I want the cookie. And so this is the problem, is that we don't make the connection. So the Rav Shalom Ashlag, the son of the Bal Ha Sulam, said that the only real prayer, and the prayer that is at the root of all of our prayers is, please change me. Everything is a quality, a flavor. All the mitzvos are a flavor of the same thing. They're all different qualities and different, like, musical instruments, all talking about the same thing. So there's no problem in the world except that we all individually need to change, and we need to come together with other people who want to change and support each other in a loving community and learn and start to recognize, to identify the goal. And so we could talk about all the people who don't have money and all the people who aren't married and all the people who are sick. Yes, it's very important. But if we want to get at the root of the matter is that we all need to change, and the happiness lies in that. And the fixing of the world lies in that. Okay, are we still go? One more, okay. Oh, this is a hard one. I'm not I'm skipping one because it's going to take a long time. Okay, this is an amazing, amazing excerpt. The desire to come close to God, even when this desire is rooted in ego, is a lofty state that is not generally found. The more elevated state of desiring closeness to God is revealed in us in stages. I'm going to read it again. The desire to come close to God, even when this desire is rooted in ego, is a lofty state that is not generally found. The more elevated state of desiring closeness to God is revealed in us in stages. So, when you start to learn Kabbalah and you start to do Torah and mitzvos with the inner aspect, one of the things that Rav Nachman talks about a lot is how do you stop from getting depressed? The Alter Rebbe also talks about it because you're seeing, wow, the evil's inside of me. It's not some Democrat somewhere or some Republican somewhere. It's literally me that needs to do the work to fix this thing, and the whole world is created for me, and the only place where I'm going to affect any change is in changing myself, and that's very hard. How do we not get depressed? So here,
That's one of the reasons why Kabbalah, by the way, is very connected with time.
Correct. We have to spend all of our time in this generation being happy. And so here is an example of why we should be happy. The desire to come close to God, even when the desire is rooted in the ego, is a lofty state that is not generally found. So I'm speaking to you because you asked, does Kabbalah actually make you have a higher consciousness? The fact that you are here, Rav Bal Ha Sulam said, said, I'm never going to understand this, I'm never going to become a big Kabbalist, why am I here? And he says, the fact that you walked in here is such a status. The fact that you are living your life according to Torah and mitzvos, and the fact that you are sitting through this class means that you are already in I think how many people are doing this work? 20%. The fact that you are already in the top 20 percentile of humanity, if you are even interested in any of this. If you are interested in any of this, you are already on the ladder, okay? Now, he goes on, the more elevated state of desiring closeness to God is revealed in us in stages. This is huge. We're going to start to learn about Kabbalah, and this is can take a long time to start the complexity of this, but we identify something that's wrong in us. We pray, we ask for the light to come down. This is done within a group, it's not done individually. And the light comes down and fixes us, and we say, wow, I have a new capacity to, I'm not as angry as I was yesterday. I'm not as bitter. I'm not as nasty to people. I have more room inside magically to say hello to people and smile at people. This is a change. And then it says in Hallel that what do you do when you get that? You raise a glass and you say, Hashem, you did this. And that is the whole work, okay? So we do this in stages because this is something you have to earn. And so it says in the Gemara, the reward for lifting 5 pounds is 10 pounds. In other words, if you're able to say to yourself, today I was wrong and today I exhibited some very negative qualities that I have inside of me and I want that to be changed, I want God to change that, then that is the mechanism by which you see the next time even worse. So the reward for lifting 5 pounds is 10 pounds. If you say to yourself, you're wrong, you should leave, I'm angry, I'm right, you're wrong, which is basically what I said to somebody yesterday, then that is not going to get me more, that's going to get me thinking that I'm a better person. He's going to leave, and I'm going to say, you see, I was right. He said this, and I said that, and how can he speak like that? And so I'm going to become, God's going to say, this guy is not ready to hear about more bad things inside of himself. So it's inverted. The more we say, it was me, Hashem, that evil is inside of me. It's not in Zimbabwe. It's not in the Democratic Party. It's inside of me. That the reward for that is, first of all, that you get a little itty bitty piece of that fixed. You thank Hashem. You feel better. You feel the light inside of you. You have an aliyah, it's called in Kabbalah. You feel this elevation, and not only that, but that is the stimulus that starts the whole thing over again. And when you don't get upset and you don't say, I feel very depressed, I feel very happy, I feel very depressed, if you start to see that this is the structure by which we are fixing ourselves, and we start to see that I think Rav Nachman says that we have to become experts going up and we have to become experts going down. Meaning, on a day that you feel depressed, you should be saying to yourself, Al Pi Kabbalah, Hashem is gonna go, I'm going down to Mitzrayim, I'm going into myself, and I'm seeing where there's things that are broken. And then when you go up, you say, wow, I fixed that thing, God fixed it for me, I become a better person. So both of those things, it's like if you go to the gym, you know you're gonna have a day where you feel very bad, you know, you feel all your muscles are sore, and then you're gonna feel a day, after that, you're gonna feel that you're stronger and bigger and all these good things, right? So understanding, you asked about Kabbalah, understanding the mechanics. A lot of people understand this already. A lot of people understand this who learned only Gemara. But if you don't understand that, if a person doesn't understand this intuitively, or if they can't verbalize it, or if they need more direction on that, here it is, the Bal Ha Sulam is laying out the very mechanism by which we do this spiritual work. Okay, good?
Good.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. L'chaim, l'chaim.